Now we got an HS250H here that we got to put a hybrid tranny in. First steps to get in the trunk: disconnect the battery and take the safety plug out of the hybrid battery. It's all behind this mess that has been left for me. We'll get that out of the way. So we come in and get this thing out of here. Stuff that away down there. Pull that out. So to gain access to the top of the train, you got to get the wipers, wiper cowl and tray off, the air box and the inverter. We got to raise it up and drain the inverter coolant before we can really do any of that. So you might as well raise it up and get the bottom taken apart before you do the top. Idea to wire wheel this shit. Want to get this fender liner all the way out of the way. Spraying these fucking clips makes it a lot easier to get them apart without breaking them. And once we get that out of the way, you can get to these oil cooler pipes and these clips for this splash shield. And you get this underbelly shield and these side shields out of the way. And you have pretty much the access you need, and these side frame rails come out next, and then we get this K-frame down. You're going to have to take off the clips here for this panel enough that you can spin it around and get to the nuts and bolts for this engine mount bracket that's under here. You just unbolt the 4 bolts from the mount and deal with getting it apart from the transmission bracket after the K-frame's out. Now if you zip tie the steering rack to these toe eyes here, it makes it a lot easier to deal with during the job. Out for that black water that comes out of these subframe bolts. Fucking get you a load in the face with that. Look at that. Beautiful. Now we worry about getting these axles and the exhaust pipe out of here now that we got room to deal with this shit. That's gonna be a pain in the ass, it always is. But I got a way. Alright, so maybe you don't have to take this exhaust pipe out, but they give you gaskets for it, and you gotta lower the motor down enough that it's like better to not have to be yanking at all of this. the great times to actually get an air hammer into the mix. You loosen these bolts up and kind of push this apart like a wheel bearing that's in a hub. I'll clean that up after so it goes back together kind of easy. Of course, this side you just beat the shit out of with a pry bar. A couple notes of interest here that I don't see any point in even unplugging the wiper linkage. Just set it aside over there along with the airbox. This ground terminal here is got to come off. I forgot about that the first time and it made some trouble. And this cover here is where you can check and make sure your high voltage system is discharged. Put this negative down in this pit and then touch either of these things, and that way you know you're good to take these things off here. When you take this off, you take the two bolts on the outer edges apart and then you gradually loosen this middle one while removing the plug. It's stuck in there real hard. You may have to pry at these edges with a tool to walk it out. And so what you want to do is get this bracket loose, put two bolts back in, you know, the jack's under the tranny right now, and you know, put two bolts in hand tight, like maybe 4 or 5 threads, so the bracket's on here loose, and this bolt can just be pulled out. So you can do that from underneath when you're lowering the thing out. So you get the jack under it from the bottom, you just pull this out, start lowering it down, then reach up on and take these bolts out of there. That way you can get the bracket out of the way as you take the tranny out, and you do the same thing going back in. And so when you take the coolant hoses off the inverter, nothing's going to come out if you drained it. Nothing comes out there, but some's going to come out here, and you can just aim this thing down and sort of dump it out if you got a catch pan. And then you can just bring these things up and tuck them out of the way for the rest of the job. So the 3-bolt bell housing bolts on top have a 17 head. I take them all the way out. This one's kind of hidden here. That's got a 14, along with these other ones down here. That one I leave in because I think that one, and then this 12 up here should be the last ones you take out as you're getting the tranny off. This 12 has some thread locker on it, so you're going to want to work it in and out, remove it, clean it up, oil it, and then put it back in. You can see I've already got a separation on the tranny case, so that means this isn't going to be totally seized on the dowels the way that the last two were. You can also use a 19 and a flex head on an impact and get this bolt out for the engine mount, the through bolt, and then you can just unbolt this frame the rest of the way. And you know, it's all right that it's all swinging there. That's why you get one of the reasons you get the exhaust pipe out of the way. And then you can just take the through bolt out and get this frame down and out of the way as one of the last steps before getting the tranny out. And this is how it's going to come out. You're going to have this piece here and this bracket to transfer over, as well as this oil pipe, but not this other oil pipe that comes with the new tranny. And you don't have to swap this plastic plate on the front over either. You swap this bracket for these cables over. The big one goes on the right one, and this little one is for the smaller orange wire. So this is everything you swap out. The shield, this piece that's in place of where a dipstick would go, the long oil pipe, the bracket that's in this hole that's in the shield, and that's it. You need a 10, a 12, a 14, and a 19 millimeter socket to get all that shit apart.